evening and welcome to the TalkWrite podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Stennett, and with me tonight is my co-host, Nick Sullivan, and author Chip Bell. And Thomas, what's your last name, Thomas? I'm on the wrong screen.
Block, B-L-O-C-K.
Thomas Block. Yeah, that's real hard to remember. So how are you guys doing tonight?
Good. How about yourself?
Doing real good, real good. We usually, since November, we started this show off with where are you and how many inches of snow do you have? And Chip, I know you're up in Pennsylvania. Whereabouts in Pennsylvania?
Just a little bit north of Pittsburgh, Western PA.
Oh, okay. So you're not up in the high mountain area near Wilkes-Barre and up in there.
No,
They
we've
get a
been
lot of
taking a
snow
pounding.
there.
We've been taking a pounding here too.
Now, I know Nick's got tons of snow and he's been shoveling and building muscle, and he's going to be taking on zombie Bigfoot next. How about you, Thomas? Where are you at?
Well, we've been in some terrible cold weather. It went down to 59 this morning. I'm in Florida.
Oh, what part?
New Smyrna Beach, between
Oh,
New
okay.
Smyrna and Daytona.
I was raised just a little bit south of you in Melbourne.
Oh yeah, I've been here for 40 years. I left the Northeast in 1971. Well, I went to Pittsburgh for a number of years, but then I came to Florida. I've been here for 40 years, so I like Florida.
Oh, you're no longer a snowbird then.
Nope.
Have you had to dodge any falling iguanas?
Haven't seen any. No. We live on a ranch here, and we have a horse business and a horse motel, in addition to the books and the narrating and everything else. And we're out in the country between New Smyrna and Daytona Beach.
Awesome. Nick, why don't you do the bio intros, and I'll do the technical stuff here.
Okie dokie. Well, so we have Chip Bell here, who has an extensive series, and we were really lucky to get him on board with Tropical Authors. He's written the Jake Sullivan series. And Chip, how many books are in that now?
19 are done. I'm working on number 20.
Excellent. Coming up on number 20. And
Dang,
Thomas Block has narrated all of them. And Thomas Block's narrated well over 100 titles across, I'm guessing, numerous series. But we're lucky, and I'm sure Chip is lucky, feeling lucky, to have Tom on all of them. And from what I understand, Tom has been putting in a lot of extra time here and getting all of these turned into audio over a rather rapid period. Chip and or Tom, one of you, tell us, when did you start creating the audiobooks for these?
About a year ago, Tom, a little bit.
I think it's been about a year, yeah. And I auditioned. He had put one up on Audible, and I auditioned, and they liked it right away and hired me. And I said, "Oh, I'll do them all." And they've been an awful lot of fun to do. As I said, they're a little bit shorter than some novels will run 13, 15 hours, and these run 5 hours, I'd say, is an average for them. So they're good, punchy detective stories, and that makes it a little easier. But when I have a break between other people, I can do them. And the fact that they're recurring characters, the main character, Jake Sullivan and Mike Lang, you get to know them. And I'm of the school that says that because I'm an audiobook fan and listener, I'm always listening to audiobooks, and I love to listen to novels from various people, but I like to get a series so I don't have to keep hunting. You get a series, you like the characters, you just get them all. And that's, I think, one of the secrets is to keep the same narrator in a series, because when you change narrators, the characters come out totally differently.
Oh, absolutely. Right. Nick's been my narrator from the beginning. We started out in 2015 or 2016, and it took him all summer to get caught up to me. And then he's done both series, even the Charity Style series from a female perspective, which he does quite well.
Well, thank you for that. But Tom, you're absolutely right. I've been doing this business since the 90s, and I have seen situations where, for whatever reason, a long-running series has to change narrators, and the next narrator might actually be objectively better than the first narrator, and it won't matter because people have
It's not the
gotten
same.
used to who they've been listening to, and they
right.
do
Yeah.
not want it to change. So anytime somebody's like, I had a little trouble with my narrator, I'm always saying, no, stick with them, just work with them, get them to fix
Do
it,
what you
because you
can.
do not want to change if you can avoid it.
Oh, I agree with that, and also then the people, the author and the narrator know how they work together, and I think that's a big important part, because we don't have to do, between myself and Chip, there's not any briefing going on. They simply downloads me the next book, and I start the next book, and there's no preamble at all, because we've been doing this for a year, and been doing a lot of them, and it's worked out pretty well.
It helps
Well,
too,
Chip-
because Tom's like
Go
you,
ahead.
Nick. I mean, he has a sense of humor. He has a certain outlook on life, and he and I get along outside of the books pretty well. So it makes everything a lot easier.
No, that's good. You definitely don't want to have a narrator that hates your guts or vice versa. That would cause hell on earth.
Well, you said like you were referring to about changing a narrator because you have a problem with them. I don't think I've had to say anything to Tom except, "Hi, here's the book, and you did a great job," and that was about it. Everything else has been fine.
Well, I do pride myself about doing my ongoing editing and then mastering, and I'm very careful to try to make sure that I've when I'm uploading it to Chip, I got it right, and when I hear something that I didn't do right, I redo it immediately. That's why I do it one chapter at a time, and then put it to bed, send it up, and very, very. I don't think you've had a correction in a single correction, Chip, in the last 4 or 5 books. There was a character named, and it was only because I pronounced it one way, and it was a friend of his. So, and he wanted it pronounced the way his friend pronounced it, and so I went back and changed that. But that's the advantage of doing chapter by chapter, because I only had to mention in one chapter. And as soon as I said it and he listened to it, he said, "Oh, this is the way you got to say this." I wasn't 10 chapters into the name. I was only did it like 3 times.
Yeah, well, that's definitely an advantage. I remember sending a chunk to Wayne, and he has a character named Chyrel, and I think I said Cheryl because she was Southern, and he's like, "Nope, it's a friend of mine." So because I was doing it chunk at a chunk, I had to go back and fix a lot of Cherels. Chip, can you tell us about the Jake Sullivan series?
Yeah. Jake basically starts out as an attorney in the prosecutor's office in Miami, and he has somewhat of a drinking problem, and he loses a case because of something he does improperly, carelessly, not intentionally, but he still does it. And he loses his job, and the attorney general is a guy named Matthews who has it out for him from the beginning anyway. So he wanders, like most people, well, not most people, but a lot of people have done in the past, is wanders down the line to Key West. He becomes an attorney doing salvage insurance claim work until he sees, pardon me?
I'm sorry, I was talking to Jordan. She was asking if Jake Sullivan was an attorney also.
Yep. He started out that way. So he finds there's a problem going on with Matthews and some other people, gets involved in that. He has a friend he did a case with that works in the FBI named Mike Lang. Mike Lang is short for Mike Langer, who is my best friend. in real life. So I stuck him in the book so he wouldn't complain. And he and Mike Lang discover what's going on, and they solve it. And in that process, they become sort of a team that works for the president directly, going out and doing things. And that allows me to get him out of a courtroom, which I really didn't want to have. I didn't want to be a John Grisham type thing with lawyers in a courtroom. That's how he gets to go over the Caribbean, South America, all the other places he's been looking for things and finding out things. And that's basically who Jake Sullivan is. And the funniest thing is, after I started doing this, I was checking on an ad that I was running, and I Googled the name, and I found out at that time that Vice President Biden's national security advisor was Jake Sullivan, who is now the national security advisor.
Well,
I
there's
think
a
that
plot
came
right
up.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember trying to look up something about your series, and that came up. I was like, what the? Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I wrote him a letter and sent him a set of the books. I never heard from him naturally, but I figured I'd give it a shot. So anyway, that's
Well,
where Jake. Go ahead,
your titles are all Jimmy Buffett song titles.
Yes.
And so obviously Buffett and trop rock is a big influence in your life, I'm sure.
Yes.
Do you have a lot of Buffett references in the stories?
No, it just depends where they take place. When I'm in Key West, I usually do. I've had a couple guys, like Donnie Brewer did a song about the series, so Eric Stone, so John McDonald, and I always tell them, if you want the book, I'll put you in. So I run into them here and there in the islands or in Key West and put them in. No, the reason that came about was I intended to write, I just said, like maybe we all have, I'm going to write a book. Never did, obviously. Then I just, one weekend, it was October, it was lousy outside. I getting ready to go to Key West to Meeting of the Minds. And I just thought, I'm going to do it. I'm going to write a book. My youngest daughter, come Monday is her and I's song. And so I figured, all right, I'll start a book that starts on a Friday, ends on a Monday, and I'll call it Come Monday and just have it happen during that weekend, which is what I did. So then I'm thinking, I really like this. I want to write some more. So I'm trying to get in my mind, both economically, how to do it, to make some money doing it, and how I would like it. And I figured, well, the natural thing is I'll make every book title a Jimmy Buffett song title. That'll tie it together, ties together the tropical theme, and maybe some parrot heads will become interested in it. And that's basically what's happened.
Oh, that's really cool. I've read it. I can't remember what book it is. It's by one of the tropical authors. Nick, you'll probably remember it, but it was set in like in the 70s. And I know who it was. Michael Reisig is one of Michael Reisig's Road to Key West books.
Right.
When his two characters, Kansas and Will, are in the Bahamas, and they're talking. They're in a hotel room and they're talking, and they hear somebody outside playing guitar, and one of the characters walks out onto the balcony and looks down and sees this guy walking by playing a guitar, and he's wearing a white sport coat. And I thought, oh, that's just really cool.
Chip, what are, I seem to remember there's some really cool titles to the songs that were written about your series. Can you tell us what the songs are?
Yeah. Eric Stone's was actually the title, the one title that I really came up with. It's called Topical Crimes in Tropical Climes.
Nice. He hated you for that. I know.
I know he did. I know we talked about that, but he did a really nice job with it. And then Donnie Brewer's was Trouble in Paradise. And then in the last book, I had a voodoo type situation with a character that was really an old legend on the island of Martinique, and she's called La de Blesse, the Devil Woman. And John McDonald did a single with that title. and did a song about it.
Well, that's cool. I'm gonna have to talk to both of those guys. Eric did a song about the Rusty Anchor Bar and Grill.
Yeah, I've heard it.
I love the Jake Sullivan song. I mean, it's got that James Bond secret agent
Oh,
man
yeah.
kind of vibe.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, he did a great job.
Have you ever considered putting any of those into one of the audiobooks as a starter or a closer?
Yeah, I have, but I don't know. I sort of like the way Tom does it. He adds music here and there where he thinks it's effective to the story, and I like the way he does that. So I sort of leave that in his hands. I've been satisfied so far with the way he's done it, and I think I'll just keep it that way for now, anyway.
That might be something we can do, Nick, especially like during a scene that takes place at the Rusty Anchor. We could have a little background music playing while everybody's talking.
Yeah, we could try that. I know. Well, Tom, you may or may not know that for a while there, the Whisper Sync, they didn't want you to put in music, but I think they've figured out how to not mess it up now. Obviously, if you're doing it.
Well, I've done it. Yeah, I've done it right from the beginning. It's an option that I give everybody when I do an audition or put something out. And I said that I have this option where I add, just like a movie soundtrack, I add a little background music at emotional or focus points in the storyline. And it almost never runs more than 2 minutes, usually a minute. And it's just like at the intense murder scene or the heart-wrenching scene or something like that, where you have some background music, just like you do in a movie. And that's what I do, because I don't use it as an effect, as Wayne was mentioning, like you're in a place and the place has got background noise, and I don't add background noise. I don't do sound effects, but I just add background music that denotes the emotion at the location where you are in the book.
Cool. Yeah. When Audible first started having some of us narrators work from home, they were doing a lot of music, but they told me to stop when the Whisper Sync started. But this is good. What you're telling me now, I want to have to research this.
Yeah, because we put the Rusty Anchor Bar and Grill, Eric Stone's song, at the end of I forget which book it was, and to get around the Whisper Sync, I actually put the lyrics of the song right at the end also, so that the lyrics matched what he was singing. And the whispers, it took a little while for him to approve it, and had to get Eric involved and give his approval and everything, but it worked out.
Well, Thomas, let me ask you some questions here. You've got Jake Sullivan and you've got Mike Lang. How do you differentiate these two guys?
Well, something I do, which is pretty, I guess it's unusual for a narrator, but I never read a book ahead of time. I never read it ahead of time. And when I'm reading it, you're hearing me read it for the first time. I'm reading it for the first time because I want to be as surprised by it as a regular reader or listener will be. And so when they first came on the scene, and it's really a tribute to the author more than anything else, is that the characters came across to me to be a certain way, and I played them that way. And Chip said to me, "Oh, you played them exactly the way I wanted them played." Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
it just, but that is a testimonial to the author more than the narrator. I mean, I had a good ear and I listened to it, listened to what he was writing, but his writing was good enough that it conveyed the character that he wanted conveyed, and I played them that way.
Now, Chip, do you find yourself writing dialogue a little bit differently now that you've got audio?
What's funny is I dictate my books. I don't write anything.
Oh, okay.
I do it all through dictation because I've been a lawyer for 44 years, and that's the way I started doing, everything in the law practice was dictation that would go to a secretary. when I started these, I thought about it and I started writing. I mean, I'll make an outline, do that naturally, get everything, all the research in that. But when I actually do the book, I dictate them chapter by chapter, and I use my impression that I have of the voices of the characters as I do them. For me, it's easier that way to make the dialogue more realistic than by writing it down. I think maybe it's me because I've had to do it, the law is so stilted, you have to write in a certain way. I think maybe if I wrote, I wouldn't get across the nuance or the dialect, or, when people say ain't, when they're supposed to say ain't, or, swear, whatever it may be in the book. When I say it, it's easier for me to focus on it than if I would write it, I think. But that's just me.
Yes, Nick doing my characters has changed the way I write a lot of my characters. I like to include a lot more Rusty Thurman because he does that so well. And
Chip,
Rusty's
do you have
back in this next book.
Oh, Rusty, good. Yeah, Rusty's back. He's saying we had a little Rusty hiatus, and I was like, we need him back.
Well, I gave you
let
Matt
me ask-
Brand.
Oh yeah, he gave me a Cornish guy. I'm like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
gonna kill you. But that wasn't as bad as the Portuguese guy from Massachusetts who
Well, I
you can
asked you
hear the
beforehand,
Portuguese
what's
in
your
his
best-
Massachusetts. I'm like,
I asked you
no.
beforehand, what's your best voice? And you said, oh, I do Cornish great. So I said, okay, next character is going to be Cornish.
I know. And then I started listening. I'm like, oh, I've been doing the specific kind of Cornish, and that's a little piratey.
It comes across perfectly.
Let me ask about the dictation. Do you have any dictations? We have a lot of writers that watch this podcast. Do you have is there a program out there that you like that's fairly accurate, or do you have to go back and clean stuff up?
No, the one I use for my everyday work, it's a Philips system. And the hand mic sits on my desk. I dictate it, and then I digitally send it over to my secretary, and she types out the draft. I go over it, refine it by redictating parts of it if need be, or whatever, send it back to her. We just do that process until it's done. So it's not anything specific to books, writing, or anything else. It's just a common dictation system that I've always used legally. So I just use it for the books also. Seems to work out fine.
Have you had
that kind of explains how you managed to almost catch up with me, because
Yeah.
you got somebody else doing the typing for you.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here peck.
Yeah. I'm not a typist. So this is a lot easier for me. And like I say, I think it's a lot more accurate the way, especially with the dialogue of the people, for me.
So Thomas, you've done, it seems like nearly 19, almost 19. You still have one left, I think, right? But in a year, you've done 18 or 19 of Chip's books.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, the last one I did, I'm looking at the note right here on my desk. Pascagoula Run was number 17, and I have Cheeseburger up next, and that one is number 18, and I'll be starting that, and Chip is going to ask me here in a minute, when the hell are you going to start that? I'm going to start that in about, I'll finish this China Invades Taipei, or China Invades Taiwan book in about 2 weeks. And
You got to get the war done before you start mine.
Yeah. I have to finish his war. And he sends me a book once a year, because his are, as I said, 130,000 words book, and with a zillion Chinese and all sorts of, and the heroes of his book are three Russian agents. And so I've got Russia and China, and all that slows you down. But I do have to say that for Chip, I have enacted Adolf Hitler, the president of France, a lot of different characters he throws in there. He's got a wide brush.
My Jamaican guy.
Oh, the Jamaican guy, he was fun. He was fun to do. He was fun, man.
Do you have any accents that when you see the author has it for you, you go, oh God, no? Do you have what I call kryptonite accents?
You mean what would what?
Ones you really would rather not do.
Oh,
Like
For
Nick's
me,
is
it's Boston.
Chicago. He hates
Boston and Chicago.
Chicago
I
and
hate 'em.
Boston.
Yeah.
yeah, Boston. Well, you just do the best. To me, the whole difference is not that it needs to be authentic. It only needs to be different. And that, in my mind, that's all it needs to be. And it the slightest bit of, if it's 10% Boston, it's Boston. You know, an odd word here and there, but the character, there has to be no question when the listener is listening, who is speaking, because the author doesn't tell you up front like a screenplay, Fred and Sam and all that. They tell you at the end of the sentence, which is too late for the reader. So you get a higher voice and a lower voice, and a stilted voice and a choppy voice and that kind of thing, just to make them sound different. That's what I do. So it's not so much the accents. They're just a hint of accent. I don't worry too much about the accents. And like this book, I'm telling you about the Chinese book. Everybody is Chinese. So I can't do a Chinese accent for 100% of the book. 100% of them. They are, the voices are different, being high, low, left, right, back, that kind of thing. Just audibly different, but not correct.
That's a good answer, and I think that's right. That's the most important thing. Is nobody should have to hit the rewind button to try to figure out who's talking, and it just should be, if all the he said, she said are chopped out, you should still know what that conversation is made up of. That's good. Well, let's see, Wayne, do we have anyone jumping in on YouTube?
Well, Britnick was there a little bit ago. Let me look. Whenever I switch over, I put too much stress on my system at one time, but Don Rich is there, Nick Harvey. No questions. Nick does say that New Smyrna Speedway spent too many days at that place testing.
That's only about, New Smyrna Speedway is only about 1.5 miles from me. I can hear them on a clear night.
And Nick Harvey's one of our tropical authors, and we call him Britnick to differentiate from Hicknick, who's on here with us. But Britnick used to be with NASCAR, and he was an engineer for the Ganassi team, I think, right, Nick? He'll answer in about 15 seconds.
Yeah, I was going to say, it'll take a bit.
Yeah, there's a delay between the live and what goes on to YouTube. So if anybody says any bad words or anything, Jordy can drop the hammer on them.
Well, I got another question for Chip here. I am a fanatic of craft beer, and I was intensely jealous when I saw a brewery had come up with a Jake Sullivan beer of some kind. I don't recall if it was a lager or what have you, but what can you tell us about that?
It was Jake Sullivan Caribbean Lager.
Nice.
There is a place in Western Pennsylvania, about 5 miles from me, about 10 miles outside of Pittsburgh. And it used to be an old American Legion hall, clubhouse, bar, that type of thing. And a young man and his fiance bought it, and they created, it's called Mastic Trail Brewing. Mastic Trail in the Cayman Islands is one of their favorite spots, so that's what they use to name it. Everything about it, the menu and everything else, is Caribbean. If you go on the website, which is just mastictrailbrewing.com, and look at it, the place is amazing the way they furnished it. They took actual sand, poured it on the floor, painted in the ocean toward it with foam and everything, and then put lacquer over the whole thing. And that's the
Oh,
way,
cool.
that's the way the
Yeah.
floor is. It has one room with pool tables, games. It has a back bar, a smaller bar. Then it has the main bar, seating all around that, and then a stage for performers. John McDonald, when my last book came out, Cheeseburger in Paradise, came up. We had a book signing there, and he came up and sang, because he's an old Pittsburgh guy too, like me, and he's younger than I am now. And they have a patio. It's amazing, right where it sits. You'd have to know Western Pennsylvania. You would never ever think this place was there. And one of my things is to try and get it out about it to everybody. So actually, my daughter approached them, and my son-in-law saw it, and he told me I should go see it because of the tie-in to the Caribbean. So I did, and with my daughter, and we were talking, and I said, "How would you like to make a Jake Sullivan beer?" So the guy said, "Sure." So his brewmaster made this lager, summer lager, and they actually took it to Denver to the great beer tasting, thing. Didn't win, but hey, it got entered, so and I enjoyed the hell out of drinking it, so, along with everything else. So yeah, it was a lot of
Jordan.
it was a lot of fun. The thing about this for me is I know for many of you in our group, this is a vocation. It's what you do to earn your livelihood and everything else. Although I believe probably all of us have fun doing it to a degree. But since I have my other main job, which takes up a lot of my time, my grandkids would take up a lot of my time, and that's the one job I won't give up. This is more of an avocation for me, and I'll do it as long as it's fun, and it's been fun. I've got to meet great people, all of you. I've traveled to different places I probably would never have gone to. It's just been great, and people seem to enjoy my books to some degree. I'm certainly not a best-selling author, like Wayne and a lot of other people, but I just have fun with it, and I'll do it as long as I have fun with it. And when I don't, I'll stop. But,
That's the thing. It's without a doubt, this is the most fun job I've ever had in my life. And I've had some fun jobs. I was a dive master, worked on a freighter, drove a cab. You meet all kinds of characters driving a cab. And I've been able to, I bet you pull a lot of characters from the courtroom.
Oh yeah. And I was in the Army, I worked as a bartender for a while. Like you, I was an orderly in a hospital. I mean, you get a bar or hospital in the Army, you got a lot of source of information. I mean, you were in the Marines, you know what I mean. The stories you hear there, they could make for a lot of good books.
Yeah, I added one of my best friends in the Corps. I added him as a character, made him an FBI agent, and he really doesn't like that.
I tell anybody, if they have interest in, they talk to me, and they'll come up to me, and we'll talk about the books, and I'll say, "Oh, I'd like to do that." I said, "Well, if you want to be in the book, I'll put you in the book," which I do. So it's fun. I really enjoy it. I really do, and I'm a history major, and a lot of my books, I don't know how many you've read or if you've read any, but I always sort of I take some crazy old legend I find somewhere, and I build it up and bring it into the present time. The one I'm working on now, Volcano, I started just looking for legends around Montserrat. And I found out this guy named Joseph Demboy from France in 1795 came over to America to bring Thomas Jefferson a kilogram, which was called a grieve back then, the actual weight, and a meter, an iron meter. And Jefferson was going to use those to get Congress to do what he wanted to do rather than what Hamilton wanted to do, which was keep the decimal system. And en route, a storm blew him off Montserrat. He got captured by British privateers and died while he was incarcerated. Well, I have this all up to the point, with the Louisiana Purchase and Aaron Burr's trial, and I get into all that. And Jake gets involved in the present day of it, and there's something that's been hidden for years that he has to find, and that's the quest that he's on now, because bad guys want it for another purpose. So it's stuff like that that I just have a hell of a lot of fun with.
Yeah, the research.
Yep.
I get to doing research on one subject, and I'll end up going down 15 different rabbit holes,
Oh yeah,
and just spend hours just absorbing information.
yeah. It's great. I love it. I do. I love it.
Well, Tom, let me ask you, because in the time between the 17 books you've done for Chip, and you're working right now on the invasion of Taiwan, from I'm guessing a military centric author, military thrillers, or kind of Tom Clancy sort of thing.
Yeah, they're very much like that. The guy was with the State Department, and he's got a lot of intrigue and all. It's a whole series. This is book number 7 or 6, I think, 6 in this series. And the only thing that's constant is the Russian spies. And then everything else is all new.
Do you find yourself doing a particular genre more than others, or have you gotten to do fantasy and sci-fi and horror or any of that?
I've dabbled in all of it. If I go and look for something to audition to, and generally speaking, almost every author that I've worked with has me come back and do more for them. And some of them, like this fellow and Chip, I do them all for them. And I, put them in the queue and do them all. And when they've come up with another one, they contact me and said, fit me in. And when I get to it, I get to it.
Yeah, I've got a book Nick way ahead of time, because he's becoming quite in demand, and he's writing his own books now. And I think one day he's going to be doing audio books and be full-time writing. So
Well,
I'm hoping
the
he won't drop
plan
me,
is
though.
to I'll stick with the series that I have, but there is hopefully a point where I'm not going to be drumming up new work.
No moss.
I like that. Although I will be narrating William Faulkner's very first novel, which is just coming into the public domain, and Blackstone
Amazing.
Audio
That's
just
great.
got to me. Yeah. Well,
Great.
long ago I narrated Sartoris, which was his second book. So this is sort of fun that I'm getting to do this
Good.
early one.
That's
Oh,
great.
that's incredible.
Let's see. I'm running out of questions here, Wayne.
Let me jump over to YouTube. Let's see. Yeah, Britt Nick says, yes, he was with Ganassi, so I had that right. Before that, he was with Michael Waltrip Racing and tested their short tracks and endurance testing. He's talking all kinds of car talk. That's what he does.
Any questions for our guests?
Chip
Nick?
Ganassi's an old Western Pennsylvania boy.
Naughty Grin says that she loved Graceless. Well, I'm guessing it's she. I don't know. Naughty Grin. It's kind of a naughty, Nauti.
Oh,
boat name.
it could
maybe.
be anything.
Yeah. Loved Graceless. Replayed it 3 times last week. Already ordered the next one. So
Great.
That's good.
There you go.
Well, Chip, you may need to team up with 3 of the others and come out with another.
We'll give it a shot.
Let's see.
I
Well,
can
actually,
see
if
Jake.
you
I
do
can see Jake and Chase
salvage-
getting together. That would be really, really cool.
Yeah.
Chase. I mean, he's CIA. Jake's.
I have to get a hold of Cap.
Yeah, that could be really, and then that just get 2 others in that same kind of genre.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot of them to choose from. 35, 36, almost 40
yeah.
now.
Yeah, it's doing great. It really is.
Let me ask about the Jake Sullivan series. What are some of the locations you've used? Because I love Montserrat, so I'm curious where else you've sent him.
Okay, obviously, Key West, Miami. I had him go home to Western Pennsylvania for one. He was in Paris and Bavaria for one. He was in Argentina, and he was in Mexico for Tampico Trauma. And as far as islands go, he's been to Jamaica, Montserrat, St. Kitts, Martinique. I'm trying to think where else. Cuba. I think that's it. I think.
That's plenty.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a little map. You know, I told Tom I'm basic outlined out to number 25. So when I hit 25, I'll be 75. So I told him that's where I'll have a reckoning and see whether I want to keep going or not. That 25th one might be Margaritaville, and I'm hanging up the pen. Although there is a Western turn of the century Western book I've always wanted to write about. I've always loved the Old West too, and I wanted to be in the mining camps of Arizona. An old marshal who's almost at his end, and I have a plot line I've had for years, and I may let Jake, whatever happens to him, file away the hours while I do that one, and then I don't know, maybe I'll come back to him. We'll see. I don't know what's going to happen. I just know I'm good for 25 as long as I'm still here.
Hey, I'll be
wonder if
happy
there's
to do
an
the
actual
Western
town
one.
named Margaritaville.
Yeah, you will be happy to do the Western one. You can get on your horse, and this guy is a sharpshooter on horseback. He used to do competitions, Western competitions, because he quit his day job to retire. By the way, he was a pilot for U.S. Airlines for how many years, Tom?
36 years. Retired a long time ago.
So he's had a great life too.
Yeah. And
I can write a book about you.
Well, in fact, when Nick was mentioning about going from less audio and more writing, I've written a number of novels over the years and had pretty good success with them. And I was the writing partner with, I'm sure you know the name, Nelson DeMille. I worked with a lot of his stuff. I was his technical advisor, and I wrote a lot of his technical stuff. And over the years, we grew up together, Nelson and I, from the second grade on. And so I did that and wrote a number of aviation novels myself. One was CBS Movie of the Week in 2005. And so I did that. And how I got into audiobooks was when the ebook started up, and all the rights to my novels, which were written between 79 and 83 or so, there were 6 of them, when they had reverted to me, and they were all out of print. Well, I said, hey, I can get these back in print. So I redid them and updated them and published it myself. And after I got them out there, you know, in the ebook format and also print format, I said, well, I'd love to have an audiobook of these, because that was when it was just starting. And that was like 8 or 9 years ago. And I looked into it, and Audible or ACX had just started up. And so I got involved. I looked and I said, oh, I could do this. Well, my first attempts were nightmarish because, you know, it sounds easier than it is. I went and put my own books into audio, and then started to do more and more and upgrade the studio and that kind of thing. So I went from writing to audiobooks.
That's the reverse of me. I was interested in writing out of college, but went the acting route, and then every 3rd or 4th book I'd read, I'd be like, I think I would have written this sentence this way. And after that had gone on for a while, I thought, okay, you know what? Let's just do it.
And you managed to get your first book in your 6th book.
Yes. Zombie Bigfoot sort of goes meta and appears in one of the
I'm just digging this book. This is really fun.
Well, you were asking about Boone and Jesse tangling in a sparring match, and I'm just waiting on you getting into the scene with him and the stunt man. New
Oh,
challenges
yeah, I haven't
them.
gotten there yet. It should be coming up. I'm a very slow reader. I used to read 2 novels a week. Now I'm lucky to read 1 novel a month. Of course,
Actually, I
had a
think
lot
that
more time
stuntman
on
is
my
named
hands back
Chip.
then. Yes, yes, he is.
That's
Uh-oh.
it.
And
That's,
he
yeah,
fancies
Chip.
himself a ladies' man.
Well,
He's
I have to see if I can. I have to
he's
see if I can hold my own either way.
exactly. Let's see. I've asked about beers and songs and locations. Oh, what can you tell us? You've had a law practice for 40 years, Chip.
Yep.
What sort of law do you practice, and have you had, like, I don't know if you're allowed. I guess once something's over, you can talk about it. Have you had any, like, cases where you're like, this could be a movie once it's over?
Well, yeah, I haven't. I've had a couple. I've been a trial lawyer for 45 years, and I do mostly. I do a lot of medical malpractice. I do a lot of personal injury cases, automobile accidents, things like that for the injured party, for the plaintiff. And I've had some cases that, yeah, they, I can tell you one without naming anything, but it was a fun one the way it worked out, because it worked out very favorably for my client. He was a cracker salesman for, go to bars and shops and, sell, I think it was Lance crackers. So he goes into a bar and he has to use the bathroom, and they tell him where to go to the bathroom. And he opens the door and reaches for the light and falls down a flight of stairs, breaks both his wrists very badly. I mean, he can't use them anymore. And there was an issue about whether the door had a sign, where it didn't have a sign, where he should have gone. It was his own fault, etc. So we go through the whole trial, and at the very end, the defense brings in the actual doors from the bar, and they have, this big white sign on it that says men's room. So I'm thinking, oh shit. Now I knew I'd been in the bar, and I knew that sign wasn't there, but it was confusing because it changed hands, and there was a question as to when signs went on and when they didn't. So I'm thinking, the jury's going to see this. I mean, it's visual evidence. This isn't going to go well. So I'm sitting there watching it, and they went on and on about it. And when it was time for cross-examination, I didn't say anything. I just said, no, I have no questions, Your Honor. So we go to closing arguments. So I said, I don't know about you folks, but, here in Western Pennsylvania, when I'm done with the day, I like to go to a bar and get what we all call bar food. Of course, everybody in the jury goes, smiles and laughs. It's burgers, fries, that type of thing. That's bar food. So I said, when you go to a bar like that, the food's really good, but man, you go home, you got to wash those clothes right away, because that hamburger went right into your shirt, right into your pants, whatever, And they're all nodding. I said, that's from all that grease, right? That's what makes the food great. But man, what it does to, clothes, and you can see it on the walls in some really old places, and they're all shaking their heads. I said, well, this restaurant's been open for 35 years or whatever it was. And I walked over and I pointed to those new clean white signs. And I said, think these have faced much grease in their time? And they started staring at those new white signs. That was it. That's all I said. They came back with a very, very significant verdict for my client.
That's
Well
cool.
done. Yeah.
It's been fun too. I mean, my practicing law I've had fun, and I like to think I've helped some people who deserve to be helped, and I'm happy.
So you plan to continue practicing law for a while?
Yeah, I've cut back a lot. I mean, in my heyday, I was at a firm down in a little town south of Pittsburgh called Washington, PA. And we were probably the biggest plaintiffs firm there at the time. And I was probably handling 200 files a year, and now, hell, if I have 10 at a time, it's a lot. I don't do nearly as much as I do. I spend a lot of time with my grandkids. I'm fortunate. My oldest daughter's 2 grandchildren. One's 10, he'll be 10. My grandson Danny, and my granddaughter Charlotte's 5. She'll be 6 March 1st. And my wife, who was a teacher, goes over in the morning because my daughter's a teacher and she has to leave early and her husband works. So my wife goes over, gets them ready for school, puts them on the bus, and I go and pick them up every day. So we get to see our grandkids every day. Now, my youngest daughter lives in Florida near Sarasota. And she just had her first child. We have another granddaughter now. So I don't see her nearly as much except like this, you know. So it's a little different, but I still enjoy the hell out of them. I mean, that's the best thing in my life, really. And if time constraints said you got to give something up, it's not going to be them. So
Yeah.
But so far I'm juggling everything okay. Everything's working out all right.
Yeah, I've got 3 granddaughters down in Florida too, so I
Know
know
what I
exactly
mean.
what you mean. It's difficult. And we got to watch our grand dog. We babysit our grand dogs from time to time. He was over yesterday. He's 5-month-old. What kind of dog is that? A Boykin Spaniel. And this dog is just so full of energy. I mean, we were just, I stayed at the office as late as I could just to avoid him.
Well, let me ask about you mentioned your main character is a lawyer, but you didn't want the book to go the route of the Grishams, where it's all about being in a courtroom. That being said, have you had some courtroom scenes for Jake during these books?
Actually, I did for the first 3 were sort of a trilogy to introduce a series with the main antagonist being in all 3 of them. And at the end, there's a courtroom scene in which he's involved because he's still the chief federal prosecutor in Miami. But after that, he basically became, the go-to guy for the president. He and Mike, they, as it went on, and of course, I wanted to have some reality to it. And the president, whose name was Jordan Fletcher, ended his 8-year term, and he formed a private security firm. So Jake left government altogether to go work for his former boss, now his new boss, in the private investigation field, which gives him even a little bit more leeway. And Mike, of course, went with him. So, yeah, that was really the only time I had him in a courtroom because, like I said, there's a lot more legend and history out in, and of course, with the titles of the books, that tropical feel to them, I wanted to have that. So there's more for me to find, like Cheeseburger in Paradise is about a guy named Owen Lloyd, who was a pirate that no one ever heard of that captured the greatest prize in history because his ship got blown off course and the leader of the Spanish fleet, the flagship, went into the same place at Uracoke Island. And the Spanish took all the silver out and put it on the beach. And they hired him to use another ship with his brother to sail it back. And he got it on board. He just cut the line and left. It was an accidental act of piracy. And it was like worth, to today's money, $80 million. And that brought it. I got involved with Robert Louis Stevenson and Treasure Island and the Virgin Islands and all kind of stuff. But that doesn't, the courtroom, you can only go so far because you are constrained by reality. I mean, there's only certain things you can do in a courtroom. There's things you can't do. This way, you can do anything you want. So,
I've got a question from YouTube. Brandon Walsh asks, he's a new author. He's about 1/3 of the way through his first draft. And he asks, what's the challenge of writing the second draft? What do you do when you finish the first draft of a novel? What do you do after that?
well, me, like I said, I'm dictating chapter by time. So like I just had a dictation, it was an hour long. I think it was about 7 chapters because there's a lot of prologue in this about the stuff about Jefferson and all that I told you about. So what happens is I'll start another dictation. My secretary probably on the weekend will type some of that. When she gets that dictation done, She prints it and gives it back to me. Then I'll redictate it for any changes I want, anything I've come up with, or anything I think would be better, sounds better, flows better, makes a story better. And I do that dictation by dictation by dictation. So I never have a whole book except in my head and a brief outline with the bare bones done at any single time until I get the whole thing done. And then, of course, that's when I do my final rewrite over the whole thing by dictating, again, the changes I want or I find. But by that point, because of the way I've done it, I usually am pretty close to liking the way it is at the final, and there isn't really a lot of changes I have to make at that point in time. So that system works for me. But I know that's different than people who write out the whole thing because, I know where I start, I know where the end is, I make my outline, and I fill in till I hit, both points from the beginning to the end. And that's just the way I do it, which may be different from, how a lot of people do it. So I don't know whether I'm a good person to tell that person what the right answer is, if there is a right answer.
Well, what about you, Nick? You set a whole book aside after the first draft and wait a day or two or a week and then do the rewrite?
No, I stay on it generally, but I tweak it as I go. So it's usually by the time I'm done with the first draft, it's hard for me to finish the first draft with big plot issues unresolved. So I try to go through those. But to answer this fellow's question, I eventually wanted to get it to beta readers. But once I finish the first draft, the two main things I do, as I do the first draft, anytime I have something that I'm not quite happy with or there's a question, I put in the word placeholder all in caps so that I can do a find on page and go to each one of them. So once I finish the first draft, I go through and I look at all the placeholders. And if I can fix them, great. And I do. If I can't, I leave the placeholder. And then I go back and I kind of do a version of what Chip does. I let Microsoft Word do text to speech. It's a little bit robotic, but I just sit back and listen to it and make changes all the way through. And then I pass it to my beta readers and basically hope that they'll have a better idea of some of the adjustments to make.
Okay, I had to change ears and now I'm hearing an echo. My battery's dead.
Oh no.
But I'm just going to ignore the echo because we've only got 2 minutes left anyway.
You can make it. Well, Tom, you're doing the invasion of Taiwan, then you're doing Chip's next book. I'm just curious what the book after Chip's next book is.
Well, actually, I still have one of mine. I held off. As I said, I've written 7 novels myself, and my last novel, Airship 9, I have not put that into audio. And I'm gonna, when Chip is pausing there because he's got to do some writing, I'm gonna finally get around to doing Airship 9, my last novel, that I have not put into audio yet.
What's the name of the novel that you said was a movie of the week there, in case folks want to pick it up?
Well, there's a little bit of a story about that. I'll do it very quickly. I wrote it in 1979, as I said, with Nelson DeMille. We were best friends and we helped each other in all of our books. And I wrote Mayday is the one. In 79, it was a New York Times bestseller around the world, and it went out of print. Then years later, Nelson, I was working with Nelson, helping him with a lot of his stuff. And he came up with the idea that since he had a backlist, and I certainly didn't because I was out of print everywhere, I hadn't written in 10 years plus, we did a rewrite of Mayday with both our names on it. So if you get Mayday now, it says by Nelson DeMille and Thomas Bloch. The original one just said Thomas Bloch. And this one says Nelson DeMille and Thomas Bloch because he did the rewrite with me. We updated it and changed some things and put it out. And that was the one that CBS bought for the movie of the week. And they bought it in like 96 or 7, but the movie came out in 2005.
With the same title?
Yes, Mayday.
Oh, I think I've seen that.
I'm going to
Um,
try to stream it.
Well, all of my novels are, and the last one I wrote, which is why I quit writing. People say to me, "You ought to write again." I said, "No, my last novel was Captain, and it said everything I have to say. I have nothing else to say. So I'm not writing anymore because that was my alternate. It's in ebook and print and in audio. With me as the narrator, Captain, and I'm pleased with it, and that's where I quit. I quit right there.
Well, we are now out of time, so we're going to go ahead and move to close. I want to thank both of you guys for being on here with us. It's been
Thanks
a
for
lot of
having us.
fun talking about writing and narrating, and really appreciate you being on. And I want to thank our sponsors, Down Island Publishing, Down Island Press, of course, Tropical Authors, Aurora Publicity, and Pirate Radio. So anyway, that's it for tonight, and we'll catch you next month. Next
All right.
month will be Aaron Wright and Pamela Kelly, yes. Talking about publishing wide versus publishing strictly through KDP. So that's going to be a real lively, entertaining show. So till then, we'll see you next month, and have a great day.